feedback from both folks like yourselves, right, from a third-party perspective and from our customers. There were a lot of things that people liked about the car, but they certainly said there's some things you can fix. So when we set about to do that, we looked at those things, and the way I like to characterize it is we made the car quiet and comfortable and confident, okay? That just helps me to remember what to talk about. And so from a quiet perspective, we put laminated glass in the front doors. And what that does is it's like a windshield. There's a piece of glass, a piece of vinyl, and a piece of glass. And that keeps the noise outside of the car, right? When I'm sitting in the driver's seat and a truck goes by, I don't really notice the truck going by because it actually gets in the way of the noise coming in the window. That's what laminated glass does. You don't find that in a lot of D-segment cars, right? And we also added a formula to the vinyl in the windshield that makes the windshield itself manage noise. It's an acoustic laminated windshield, and that you won't find in a D-segment car. Okay? So those are a couple of things that we talk about. There's also 45 things that you can't see that we did to either keep the noise out or damp the noise, either from the road or from the engine. All kinds of treatments in the car, underneath the carpet, outside in the engine box, on the firewall, those kind of things. Because that was one of our objectives, is to make the car very quiet for the customer, so that when you're driving it, it's not a distraction of the things going on around you, right? And then from a comfortable perspective, we took advantage of the opportunity to put soft materials everywhere you touch the car. Because obviously every time I get in the car, I'm going to touch the armrest, which is now soft. I lay my shoulder, my elbow on this, and now the upper of the door panels are all soft. The armrest in the center console is soft. We have a nice leather trimmed steering wheel now. The upper part of the instrument panel is soft. So all of those things are now much more touchable than they were, right? We had a lot of hard plastic before, so we fixed a number of those things, okay? We also worked on the seats. We opened up the bolsters on the seats, the bolster being the outside surface, right? So we laid that open just a little bit, and then we added 12 millimeters of what we call topper pad on top of the foam. So when you sit, you're sitting on a pad on top of the foam. So it just gives it a much better body feel to the things. Did I spill my coffee on myself? Get all excited, right? So that helps with just seat comfort. And we've driven them for hours and hours and hours. And we find that that provides a chance to be comfortable for a long time in the seat. So we find good support and comfort. We changed basically everything you touch, as I said. So that's a number of the things on the inside. All new air vents, changed the cluster around, those kind of things on the inside of the car. And then as far as the ride and handling of the car, there's 28 suspension bushings in the car. We changed 24 of them.
What's a bushing?
Bushing is a piece of rubber that's in the suspension system itself somewhere, right? And bushings either support the car as it turns, and they also can transfer energy from when the wheel hits a bump, right? If it's too hard, that rubber sends that shock right into the car, and so right into my seat and right into me. So we had to find a balance between giving it good handling so it can absorb all the bumps and not sending all of that energy into the passenger. So we worked on the rubber parts. We also changed the spring rates, which is actually how much energy it takes to deflect the spring. We changed the shock damping, which has to do with how quickly all those components rebound when they hit something and then spring back. That's to make the car confident so that it doesn't feel like it's going to kind of do this when you go around a corner. Yeah, because we like cars to do this when they go around a corner, right? Like roller skates. We took the rear of the car, the tires in the rear, and we call it the distance between the tires, cross car, is called track width, and we increased that by 1 inch. And the wider I make the tires, the easier it is for the car to stay like this and not do this, right? So we increased the track by 1 inch. We also lowered the car 12 millimeters in the rear and 6 millimeters in the front. People said, you can't possibly do that, it'll never work, parts will break, all that kind of stuff, right? We figured out how to do those things, and what that does is it sits the car down and gives it a much more planted feel, so that it just feels more like it's ready to go. Anything you need to do, right? So we talked about ride height. Oh, we also changed something called camber. This is a little, I hope this is not ridiculous, but I love talking about this stuff. When the car is up in the air, if we could lift this car up in the air, you'd see that the rear wheels would be like this in space, right? It's called camber. And when I set the car down on the ground, those wheels do this. So the tire patch, the amount of tire that's actually on the ground, we increase that intentionally by forcing the tires out like that. So I get more tire on the ground, and then we change the tire from a 215 series tire, which is this wide, let's say, to a 225 series tire, which is wider. So now I have a wider tire with more of the tire on the ground. And that's the only thing that actually touches the ground in a car, right? We don't talk about tires so much, but if I don't have good tires, I can't even begin to hold the car on the road. So wider tires, better tires, and increased camber. So those are a number of things that we did. We also put the new 3.6 Pentastar engine in the car, 283 horsepower, 260 foot-pounds of torque.
Best in class.
And I like to talk about that, and I also like to drive that, right? I have a hard time not smiling when I get out of this V6 car. This car also was the car that we provided to Ward's Automotive magazine when they put together their annual 10 Best Engines edition. We gave them an Avenger with a 3.6 engine in it, and we were actually awarded one of the 10 best engines for this engine in this car. So we take a little bit of pride in that as well. And out underneath the hood, we did all kinds of things. They may not like make sense to you, but as an engineer, I can't help myself. One of the things we did for ride handling is we put this this pipe between the shock towers, right? This is the front strut on both sides of the car. We basically bolted a pipe across the top of both of them. Because what happens in a sharp turn sometimes is that the car wants to do this. And if I bolt those two together, they have to go together, right? They can't move independently of each other. And that's part of stiffening up the front end of the car. Way down there underneath, there's also some cross braces that you can't see that we added to the car to keep the front end of the car nice and straight under all kinds of cornering conditions. I could go on and on. But those are some of the things that we did, and you don't necessarily see them, but you notice them when you drive the car.